Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who's dialing in, to our friends, our customers, and our partners. My name is Amelia. We are dialing in live from sunny Singapore at the Meiyume Insights session. And today I'm joined by a partner of ours, Euromonitor International, Sahiba Puri. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. It's our pleasure. And today our topic is actually going to be about the post-COVID beauty and personal care trends in Southeast Asia. The format of our session today is that Sahiba is going to share, I guess, the insights that Euromonitor has presented, and then I'll do a very brief Q&A session with her. I'm very pleased to have Euromonitor on board, and we hope that you enjoy the session. So maybe Sahiba, without further ado, I'll just pass it over to you. Maybe you can share a bit about Euromonitor before you launch into it.
Sure, absolutely.
Looking forward to your talk.
All right.
So we'll get the slides up on the screen, and then we'll start very shortly.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Media. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for making the time to attend today's session. My name is Sahiba, and I'm a senior consultant from Euromonitor International, and I am based out of, as Amelia put it, sunny Singapore office. Today, I'll be sharing with you the research and analysis that Euromonitor has been developing on the beauty and personal care industry in Southeast Asia. We will also look into how some trends are developing within the industry in the region. But before we get into all of that, let me first share with you a brief about Euromonitor. Now, what you see on the screen is basically the global footprint of the Euromonitor's presence. We have 16 offices across the globe through which we manage an additional about 100 countries for in-depth analysis on consumer goods and services. Now, this is done through a combination of both in-house analysts as well as our on-ground analysts who are based in locations beyond these 16 offices. Now, this is the entire industry coverage at Euromonitor. So, within consumer products, we cover 20 industries. And apart from consumer products, we also cover economies and consumers. Now, economies and consumers is actually one of our bigger systems, and this influences the other industries as well. So, even internally, this is a pretty important system for us because we usually refer to this for data sets like population, households, economy, etc. Now, Euromonitor is a market research company, yes, but we do offer more than just data. So we provide analysis and insights across geographies as well as industries. So this actually presents a good opportunity to consider making us your research partner with whom you may want to discuss insights and as well as data to make better sense of local, regional, as well as global markets. So, with that, let me give you a quick overview regarding today's session. I will begin by taking you through the state of play of beauty and personal care in the region. We will then look into how some trends like sustainability, holistic beauty, and inclusivity are shaping up in the region. So, this will be done through a mixture of both data as well as some examples. And towards the end, I will wrap things up by sharing some key takeaways from the entire session. All right, so with that, let's dive straight in, starting with the state of beauty and personal care in Southeast Asia. So, to give you context, our coverage of BPC includes the categories that you see listed on the screen. So, across beauty, the broader categories that are covered are color cosmetics, men's grooming, deodorants and fragrances, skincare, sun care, and hair care. And within personal care, we primarily look into baby and child specific products, bath and shower, depilatories, as well as oral care. So, what you're seeing currently on the screen here is the market size from 2019 to 2021 and the expected forecast growth from 2021 to 2026. Now, the markets covered are basically Southeast Asian markets, which are Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Singapore. Now, beauty and personal care is a very dynamic market with each category facing strong competition both from local as well as global players. But in that regard, 2020 was an even more challenging year where the industry was impacted by external factors as well. So, as COVID 19 spread, countries went into lockdowns and mobility restrictions were put in place. So, purchasing power took a hit for many consumers, which basically meant that they had to prioritize spending primarily on essential items. All of this basically meant that demand for certain out of home categories, such as color cosmetics and fragrances, for instance, they pretty much declined across most markets. But on the other hand, we did observe that there were some categories which were able to perform well because of pandemic induced fears. So, in Indonesia, for example, concerns regarding personal hygiene actually helped to boost the sales of bath and shower products. Now, in 2021, as the region started to learn to live with COVID, countries slowly started recovering from the social and economic impact of the pandemic. Consumers started stepping out more frequently, and as a result, we did see a pickup in demand and basically the industry getting back to the path of recovery. So, over the forecast period, we expect the beauty and personal care market in Southeast Asia to grow by about 7% to reach a market size of nearly 35 billion US dollars by 2026. Now, the biggest economies, as you can see on the screen, even they are now and they continue to be the biggest economies in the forecast period, are Indonesia and Thailand, with both of these collectively accounting for nearly 60% of the region. Now, before we get into forecasts, I actually wanted to share with you all some of the best and worst performing categories in 2021. So, I'm sure it's not a matter of surprise that color cosmetics was actually one of the worst hit categories by the pandemic. Mobility restrictions, a drop in out of home activities, and limitations on socializing meant that the need for color cosmetics declined considerably, which eventually translated to a drop in sales. Even as mobility restrictions eased out, mask mandates in different markets meant that categories like lip products they continue to suffer. Now there was of course a focus on eye makeup, but it was not enough to drive overall growth for the category. So coming into 2021, markets like Indonesia and Singapore, they were able to register slight positive growth because consumers returned to socializing and they started getting back into the workplace. But I think I do want to point out here that even though we see positive growth for these markets, it is coming from an already contracted market size in previous year and is obviously not enough to support recovery immediately in the category, particularly in Singapore. On the other hand, markets like Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand, these continue to decline because of the additional waves of the virus that spread in these countries and also because of continued lockdown measures. So, as a result, overall recovery in color cosmetics has been slow, and as certain pandemic induced habits and routines are expected to last in the coming few years, we expect the category to cross its pre pandemic sales levels by about 2023. On the other hand, a renewed focus on mental health and self care during the pandemic meant that there was a growing focus on skin health as well. So, as spas and salons remained closed during the pandemic, or consumers pretty much avoided going to these places because of hygiene concerns, as a result, consumers started to adopt certain at home skincare routines instead. So, treatments like facial masks, skincare kits, etc., these started to become a bit more popular. Uh, an increased amount of time spent at home also meant that focus was being laid on product formulations. So consumers were paying attention to the certain specific kind of ingredients that offered them the particular benefit that they were looking to achieve. So for instance, consumers who were looking for anti-aging treatments, they increasingly started paying attention to ingredients like retinol. While there were those who were looking for more of a brightening effect, they started looking for vitamin C, just as an example. Now, along with all of this, close attention was also being paid to science backed formulations and dermatologist backed claims. So, this has actually helped to push demand for dermocosmetic products in the region. Now, this is, of course, a much bigger topic, and I will discuss this in a bit more detail in the upcoming sections. So, I'm hoping the past two slides gave us a good overview of what have been the best and worst performing categories in the industry. So, with that, let's look into how the industry is expected to perform over the forecast period. Now, on the whole, beauty and personal care in Southeast Asia is expected to grow at a CAGR of about 7%. At a category level, as you can see, the biggest green bubble is skincare, and it is expected to remain the biggest category in value terms, contributing nearly 33% of total value sales. Men's grooming, on the other hand, which is expected to account for about 9% of the market in the region, is actually expected to be the fastest growing category. Now, the male population in Southeast Asia are becoming increasingly conscious of their physical well being, particularly facial care. Social media is also playing a key role in changing perceptions about men using skincare products. Along with this, we are also seeing an increasing number of male celebrities or male influencers who are promoting the usage of beauty and makeup products among men. So, I do want to say that even though we are seeing an evolving consumer perception and behaviors are changing for the better growth of the category, I do want to emphasize that brands still need to continue building on this awareness amongst the male population to take this growth even further. So, on the whole, we expect sustained growth for the industry over the forecast period. Things like rising disposable incomes, availability of more sustainable choices, focus on skin health, and the rise of brands with more inclusive offerings are some of the factors that are expected to drive growth in the industry. And these are going to be some of the trends that I will be discussing in the upcoming slides. So let's start with the evolution of sustainable beauty. Now, before I get into the topic in more detail, we all know that sustainability as a concept is quite vast and can have a very varied meaning. So, for the purpose of our understanding today, I am going to focus on sustainability in product formulation and in packaging. Now, over the years, preference for beauty products on a global level has evolved from green beauty to clean beauty to conscious beauty. Now, the preference for green beauty among APAC consumers can actually be seen through the survey results on the right. As per our consumer survey, natural and organic ingredients remain some of the most desired eco-friendly product features when it comes to skincare products. On the other hand, a strong desire for ingredient transparency tells us about the preference for cleaner beauty. So, as consumers, like I mentioned earlier, are paying more attention to ingredients, they are increasingly questioning the presence of ingredients like parabens, phthalates, petroleum derived products, etc. And there is a preference towards less harsher chemistry. And lastly, we have conscious beauty. Now, here again, conscious beauty can take many forms, but one approach can be through ethical consumption. And one avenue where ethical consumption is evident is in the preference for more sustainable forms of packaging. So the question arises that who is driving this demand for sustainability? And I'm going to address this question in the context of Thailand. Now, when it comes to topics like sustainability and climate change, it is actually millennials and Gen Z who are the real influencers. They are living through a time where they can actually see the impact of climate change unfold before them. So, in one of our consumer surveys, we asked them if they feel that they can make a difference to the world through their choices and actions. And 43% respondents indicated that they actually believe that they very well can do so. Not only are they worried about climate change, but they are also willing to act on it. So, when asked about what kind of activities do they usually consider to adopt a more sustainable lifestyle, 46% respondents indicated that they make use of sustainable packaging options like refillables, recyclables, or even biodegradable packaging. Now, the impact of such evolving consumer priorities also means that these consumers are looking to engage with those companies or brands that they can completely trust in this regard. So here again, we see that 44% respondents from these generations indicated that they only buy from companies and brands that they trust completely. Now, although I do agree that during the pandemic, sustainability took a backseat to economic and health priorities, but it also accelerated young consumers' activism on social issues. So, this is actually indicated by the growing preference for eco friendly or ethical features in skincare products from 2019 to 2021. So, as consumers look to make more sustainability oriented purchase decisions, they will increasingly look for brands that can help them or enable them to make such choices. And from what we have observed in the past few years, there are brands in the region that are definitely responding to these evolving preferences by adjusting their portfolios accordingly. So let's have a look at what kind of brand activity is happening in this regard. Now, when it comes to sustainable alternates in product composition, an example that I can share with you is of the usage of biocell fibers in sheet masks in the region. So, to give you context, biocell is basically a fiber brand that's owned by Lenzing in Austria, and the brand was launched in Asia in 2021, where it tied up with local players to offer their fiber facial sheet masks. Now, what's different about the fiber is that it is derived from renewable wood sources, and the fiber is certified as compostable and biodegradable. So, which basically means that it allows the product to break down safely and revert back to nature after it has been used. Currently in Southeast Asia, the BioCell brand is present through Watson's HA range of facial masks, and in Indonesia, it is present through Sensatia Botanicals. Now, along with formulations, brands are, of course, also exploring more sustainable packaging alternates. And one approach that is picking up a lot of momentum, not only in the beauty space, but also in industries like home care, is the use of refill stations. So in 2021, we saw that Body Shop in Singapore introduced their first ever refill station in the country at the Iron Orchard outlet. So at this store, consumers could basically go in and they could get a refill for a range of personal care products such as shower gels, shampoos, conditioners, and hand washes. And all of this was available to them in aluminium bottles. Similar to this, L'Occitane also opened its first green store in Singapore. Now, this store has a refill fountain where consumers can currently get refills on shower products in aluminium bottles. Along with this, the brand is also offering eco refill pouches that are made from 100% recycled plastic, and even further so, the used packages can thereafter be recycled again. And lastly, the brand is also accepting empty bottles from any other beauty brand for the purpose of recycling. So these are just some examples which are indicative of how brands in the region are investing in sustainability initiatives. Now, I'm sure that we're all aware that despite evolving preferences, the industry does face certain challenges when it comes to sustainability. So, as per one of our industry survey, majority of the surveyed industry professionals indicated that pricing was one of the biggest barriers to consumer adoption. Now, I'm sure this is something which we have all observed ourselves as well, that sustainable products usually come with a higher price tag, and this can serve as a deterrent for product adoption in an already price sensitive region. Now, this price sensitivity was further pronounced over the past 2 years because purchasing power took a hit because of the economic pressures that were brought on by the pandemic. So, as a result, sustainability offerings did take a back seat to affordability and other essential items. However, as economies in the region gradually move towards recovery, disposable incomes are expected to grow over the forecast period. So, the potential for consumers to adopt sustainable products can be expected to increase. And along with this, to drive broader adoption, it is also important for brands to convey the value proposition that such a product can offer the consumer directly. Now, despite these challenges, sustainability is still considered a business need. As per one of our industry surveys, again, we can see that there is still a consensus among industry professionals that sustainability is important to improve a business's resilience against unexpected risks. And I think if the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us anything, it is about the need to build resilience in the face of adversity. So that brings me to the end of the first trend. I hope that was useful. And with that, we move into the next one, which is the holistic approach to beauty. Now, as a concept, holistic beauty refers to an all encompassing approach to being a healthier version of oneself. It is a concept that suggests that our appearance on the outside is connected to what happens on the inside. Now, the rise of trends like health inspired beauty and wellness beauty are actually testament to the broader trend of holistic beauty. Now, during the pandemic, because health and wellness became a priority for a lot of consumers, they also started paying attention to their internal well being. Uh, some consumers who had more time on hand were able to focus on their diet, nutrition, exercise, as well as taking better care of their mental health. Now, a part of holistic beauty also meant paying attention to skin health. So, while extensive makeup routines definitely took a back seat, skin health came to the forefront. So, this meant that along with a preference for more natural ingredients, importance was also being given to products with science backed claims. This growing focus on science backed efficacy has actually contributed to the growing popularity of dermocosmetics. And today I'll be talking about how dermocosmetics are one such approach to holistic beauty. Before we get into that, let me quickly give you, let's take a look at what dermocosmetics are and how a consumer is motivated to buy them. So, Euromonitor defines dermocosmetics as those products that are basically designed to promote the health and beauty of skin and hair by combining the properties of cosmetic products with those of dermatological products. Now, these products usually they have science-backed formulations, and they usually carry expert endorsements from dermatologists. Now, consumers are also increasingly adopting these products because they believe that they can offer them certain specific kind of benefits and help address specific skin or hair concerns. So, according to one of our consumer surveys, respondents in Asia Pacific indicated that the strongest motivation for them to use dermocosmetic products was for the skin and hair health benefits that they offer. Many consumers also indicated that they consider dermo products to be more effective than their non dermo counterparts. So, such factors actually indicate that consumers are motivated to purchase these products because of the specific value that they're able to provide. Now, the popularity of dermocosmetics has been growing not only in the broader Asia Pacific region, but as you can see in Southeast Asia as well. So, our region currently accounts for nearly 7% of the overall APAC dermocosmetics market. Now, the rise of dermo brands is also being supported by mass availability across retailers in the region, such as Watsons and Guardian. So, in Malaysia, for instance, we see that pharmacies like Big Pharmacy, Alpro, Healthlane, Caring, etc., they are offering a wide range of dermocosmetic products right off the shelf. So this mass availability basically means that you are providing easier access to the consumer to try your product out and come back easily for a repeat purchase. Now, while dermo products have seen near consistent growth in all markets in the region over the years, I'm sure it's very obvious and evident and a big question that why does Thailand stand out as such a big market in terms of value size? So let's take a closer look at why this is the case. First off, there are rising concerns around skin conditions like acne and eczema among Thai consumers. Now, this is especially the case for consumers who are living in bigger cities and are exposed to higher levels of pollution. To address these specific concerns, people are looking for products with formulations that, again, like I mentioned, ensure effectiveness. And this is where dermo brands or doctor brands seem to gain trust. Now, dermo brands are actually also expanding in categories beyond skincare. So, from what we're observing, we see that from sun care to baby products, a lot of new product development and launches are actually going beyond just skincare for dermocosmetics. So, in general, they are expanding into more portfolios in the country. And lastly, like I previously mentioned, easy access through health and beauty retailers, which have a wider presence across the country, makes it easier for consumers to gain access to these products. So that's pretty much the reason why we are seeing such a strong performance of dermocosmetics in Thailand. With that, let's have a look at what kind of new product development activity is happening in this space in the Southeast Asia region. Now, earlier this year, Eucerin introduced the Eucerin Sun Collection, which is a dermatological sun care line. The range actually consists of 7 products across the face and body, and it claims to be the only dermatological sun care line with antioxidants. Now, this range is currently available in Singapore across health and beauty retailers and also through e-commerce channels like Lazada and Amazon. On the other hand, there is Cetaphil, which is a leading dermo brand in Philippines and Singapore, which rolled out its optimal hydration range. This was introduced in the region somewhere in April this year, and the range basically includes a serum, an eye serum, and a daily cream. And these are targeted towards addressing the concerns around dry skin, dehydration, and sensitive skin. Now, lastly, dermocosmetic brands are not only being made available by global players, but local players as well. In Philippines, there is a local player called Celetique, which offers a range of dermocosmetic products across its skincare portfolio with features like hydration, brightening, skin defense, just to name a few. So, dermo products that help address specific skin concerns can actually be seen as an approach to promoting holistic beauty among consumers. Now, another approach to holistic beauty that I want to briefly talk about is the preference for more natural and botanical ingredients. Now, in an effort to move towards cleaner beauty, consumers are actively moving away from harsher chemicals and ingredients like parabens, silicons, etc. And instead, they are increasingly opting for more natural formulations. Now, not only are such formulations perceived to be safer for the skin, but in many countries, these can also tie back to local cultures and traditions. Now, the Southeast Asia region is currently home to a wide number of local brands that are offering skin and body care products with more natural formulations. For instance, in Thailand, there is Mellow Naturals, which is a luxury natural skincare line. They claim to use natural ingredients that are found within Thailand or the broader Asia region. In Indonesia, there is Bali-based beauty brand called Sensatia Botanicals, and they offer a range of beauty products that are made using natural ingredients. And in fact, one of its most recently launched deodorant, for instance, they use locally sourced pandan leaves and jicama extracts as the key ingredients. Lastly, we have our homegrown Singaporean skincare brand called Handmade Heroes. Now, not only do they offer natural and vegan formulations like bakuchiol, but it also comes as a halal certified brand. Now, I'm going to wrap this section up by saying that consumers today want to look and feel their best both on the inside and out. Consumer understanding on the role that nutrition and lifestyle play on overall well-being, including skin health, is continuing to gain significance. So this evolving landscape basically presents opportunities for brands across the different realms of holistic beauty, from science-backed efficacy to cleaner formulations. So with that, we move into the next trend, which will talk about inclusivity and how it drives innovation. So inclusivity in beauty basically refers to celebrating diversity. This can be diversity in age, in skin tone, in skin type, in gender, among a multitude of other factors. Now, although historically beauty has been showcased through a very specific lens, it's usually been a one size fits all approach, but we do observe that this is quickly changing. Now, consumers are increasingly vocal about the need for broader representation, and they expect brands to go beyond just the simple traditional representation that they have been seeing. Now, brands in APAC are also well aware of this evolution, and as you can see from the chart on the right, over 55% surveyed industry professionals indicated that inclusivity is expected to be one of the top 10 influential trends in the industry over the forecast period. Embracing diversity and strategizing through the lens of inclusivity can be a great way for brands to drive innovation. Not only does this enable them to potentially become pioneers in their own niches, but it can also position them as a trusted ally among consumers. One of Euromonitor's own industry expert also considers that innovation strategies that focus on inclusivity can make way for much greater consumer empowerment. Now, when we look at how inclusive beauty is unfolding in Southeast Asia, we see a lot of local brands are offering products that are not only tailored to the diverse skin tones in the region, but they also cater to the varied cultural and religious practices. One such example is of the rise of halal beauty brands in the region. As we can see here, the share of online beauty and personal care SKUs with halal claims in Indonesia has been increasing over the years. Even across the markets of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore, many young local beauty brands are offering halal certified products. Eska, for instance, which is from Indonesia, is a halal certified cosmetics brand. Along with being halal certified, it also claims to be Indonesia's first vegan cosmetics brand. On the other hand, in Malaysia, we see a hijab label called Duck. They launched their own halal cosmetics range in 2017. So the brand, which is called Duck Cosmetics, offers a range of cosmetic and personal care products. Now, these brands are just some examples of how halal beauty is being integrated into the beauty market in the region, and as a result, it is providing more inclusive options to the Muslim population in the region. Another way in which brands are offering inclusivity is through personalization. So in Indonesia, a skincare brand called Base is helping consumers find the right product that are tailored to their individual needs. So they use a questionnaire through which they basically help review the skin type, skin concerns, and lifestyle requirements. And based on the responses, they are able to recommend products that best suit an individual's need. Along with that, we also have Singapore-based Skin Inc., which offers customized skincare products such as custom-made serums that are tailored to one's specific skin conditions and requirements. Now, these kind of developments around customized offerings are actually testament to how inclusivity can help drive innovation in the industry. At the end of the day, consumers basically want to feel heard, they want to feel seen, and they also want to feel represented. They want products that are as close a fit to their unique needs as is feasible. Now, brands across the world are also tapping into this, and they are tailoring their offerings to serve traditionally underserved segments. So I would say that having a more inclusive approach can help brands not only come up with more innovative offerings, but it can also help them tap into what can be considered as a traditionally underserved consumer base. Now, before I end my sharing for the day, let me quickly take you through some key takeaways from today's session. First, we discussed sustainability. Now, from a consumer standpoint, there is a desire for more sustainable formulations and packaging, and we see that the desire is increasing. From a business standpoint, despite the challenges, sustainability is considered important to improve a business's resilience against unexpected risks. Next, we spoke about holistic beauty. So here we want to drive a focus on skin health, which is moving beyond simply a cover up approach. There is stronger focus on ingredients, which is helping drive demand for science backed efficacy, as well as more natural and botanical ingredients. And lastly, we spoke about inclusivity, which is about moving beyond a one size fits all approach. And this can help drive innovation and broaden the consumer base to include previously underserved segments. Before I leave, let me just quickly leave you with this. So, through one of our industry surveys, we asked industry professionals what they consider would be the key innovation focus areas for them or their companies in a post COVID era. Now, while the list is in front of you, the bars that are highlighted in yellow cater to the three trends that I spoke about today. And businesses around the world are not just observing these trends, but they're also actively focusing on them for the purpose of their future innovations. So, with that, I come to the end of my sharing today. I hope you found it insightful and can take away some interesting learnings from it. If you'd like to discuss more about this, please feel free to reach out to me. You can do so via my email or LinkedIn, which you can see on the screen. And yeah, thank you once again. I hope you all have a good evening ahead.
Thank you so very much, Sahiba, for that very, very comprehensive kind of explanation of what we can expect in this region. I just had a couple of questions maybe that came to mind as you were sharing that. One of the points that you had mentioned was that customers are looking a lot more closely at the ingredients now. I think you had mentioned, the cataloging of retinol with anti-aging. Yeah, for example, vitamin C for brightening. You also spoke about natural and botanical ingredients. Now, if I could give you a crystal ball, I'm just wondering, are there any hero ingredients, maybe of either the ones you have mentioned or ones that you have not mentioned yet, that you see as particularly interesting for Asia?
Okay, so this is based on like the kind of products I've been observing recently, but I would say bakuchiol is actually making its way in a few products. So one of the example, of course, which I shared was from Handmade Heroes, but I believe I've recently even seen global brands like Paula's Choice also incorporating this in their products. I think traditionally we have seen extracts like green tea extracts and all these have been around for a while, but I would say uh, one approach to looking at hero ingredients also depends on the market that you're looking at. So for a lot of markets, your local cultures and your local traditions can play a very key role in understanding what the hero ingredient should be. I think we are currently learning a lot from perhaps if you look at China, where you have traditional Chinese medicines, there could be some ingredients that can be picked up from there. Similarly, if you look at the markets like India, Ayurveda has a huge role to play, and there is consumer perception around the benefits that these can definitely offer, and we are seeing those kind of ingredients also being incorporated. So yeah, I think it's pretty much a lot to do with local traditions, and beyond that, I would say it has a lot to do with probably influences like we see K-beauty influence.
Yeah.
So if ingredient like Sika extracts is popular in that culture, then that can make its way through in countries where gay beauty is, say, really popular.
Thank you so much. It seems that all I see nowadays is Sika. It's really everywhere, but thank you for also validating that insight that local ingredients, local heritage is kind of valued by consumers in this region.
Yeah.
I also wanted to kind of ask you a little bit more about the sustainability portion. I remember that you highlighted one of the biggest constraints is willingness to pay from the customer. So what you had suggested is that maybe brands will have to educate the customer, or brands will have to plan for the future. But we know that cost is a constraint not just for customers in this region, but sometimes also by brand owners in this region, especially independent brands. Is there anything that you can suggest brands can do in the present, maybe to develop sustainable options that are somehow still cost effective or still affordable in the eyes of the consumer?
I think so. I think I briefly mentioned this, but I think I can elaborate a bit more. It's about driving home the value proposition to the consumer. Now, we do have a consumer base that is definitely conscious, like sustainability oriented, and they're conscious about the impact on the climate. But if you want to drive that to a broader audience, we need to be talking about what is the direct benefit to the consumer from consuming that product.
Right.
Right. So I think if we look at it from the context of beauty, a key advantage that we have when we say use plant-based ingredients is that these are natural. And when you position a natural product, you can clearly talk about the benefits that it has for skin, how it's, say, better for your skin than much more stronger chemistry. So I think driving home the direct benefit that a sustainable product can offer the consumer is where they understand, where they might feel that yes, this is giving me direct value, and I am also doing something better for the planet. I'm also doing my part in adopting more sustainable practices. So it's kind of about bridging the gap, and I mean, we need to have sustainable practices. That's kind of like done and dusted. We've gone beyond the stage where it's just a trend. We know that this is like part of companies' 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plans. So, like you mentioned, it's about bridging the gap. So, I think that is one way value propositioning of the direct benefit a consumer can derive is probably the best way to help them come on board.
Right, right, right. I mean, it seems like the consumer is definitely aware this is something they want to go into.
Yes.
But maybe that next step of the education and how much value or the price tag that you can you can put to that willingness to
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, of course, we have to look at how much additional sustainability premium is being applied. So as long as that's moderated and as long as the value proposition is evident and something which a consumer is aspiring to achieve out of the product, I think that can help bridge the gap.
Yeah, one thing I noted was that your examples for maybe more circular beauty solutions were in Singapore, which is a relatively more mature, wealthier market. So it's interesting to see how the rest of the markets will eventually.
Yeah, I mean, so I can talk about for Thailand, what I've observed is actually from another industry, but I think it's a concept that still can be applied to PPC. We see a lot of home care players who are tying up with retailers to set up refill stations.
Right.
So in theory, it's like you're still getting a liquid out of a refill container. As far as refill stations are concerned, in this region, for now, I've seen a lot of development happening in Sydney, in Australia,
Yes.
and of course in Singapore. So I think there is a market for it. It's just, but again, it's about trying and testing out and seeing what works, and then how to then take it forward.
Yeah. So it seems, I mean, if I can conclude also, like the takeaway is watch this space, right? So much more to happen, so much more, such an exciting place to play in.
It is, it really is, yeah. And I think it's, considering how much is happening in the space, it's just like expanding a lot right now.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, Sahiba. So you heard it from the horse's mouth, kind of 3 key trends that we can expect in ASEAN in this post-COVID environment.
Right.
That's all the time that we have for today's session, Sahiba. And just want to give a shout out to those listeners who are dialing in, that if you did have a question that maybe wasn't addressed today, you are very welcome to reach out to Sahiba. And I believe the slides are also available if our viewers want them. So thank you very much for dialing in. Thank you once again, Sahiba.
Thank you so much.
Everyone have a lovely day.